So we just finished counting down. Welcome to the Bet Out of Debt show. I have my man Patrick Doherty in the building. What's up, Patrick?
How about you?
I'm doing good, man. Looky here, man. It's going to be an interesting show today.
Another glorious Sunday.
A glorious Sunday. And we're going to do the hell to the gnaw.
Yes.
Richard Branson is up to some chicanery. And also my man Stephen A. Smith is going to get a mention. We'll talk Ford Motor Company, which I have been talking about off the scenes for a bit. And Patrick, you're going to talk
About Salesforce.
Yeah. So let's start the show. All right, Patrick. Are you there? Patrick, do it. I never know if the sound is coming through or not after we go through the intro. Are you there?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. So, Bet Out of That show. We're in the building. We're in the house. We got people up in the chat. We got people hitting me on the text. Patrick, let's start the show out with the hell to the gnaw.
Hell no, to the no, hell to the no, hell to the no.
So who's going to get it this week? Oh, man, come on. Look what happened. This just came out on Friday, Patrick. Did you hear about this?
I didn't hear about it until the weekend, and I was reading the article about Richard Branson.
Yeah, did you see what he did here?
Yeah. Apparently, he sold a bunch of stock in his Virgin Galactic, I think it was, before some bad news came out.
Yeah, that's not good for investors. It's
Not
not
only
good for
that,
shareholders, and it's not really a good look for him.
because he's coming out as a superhero. Like, he's being able to go to the moon and do all these wonderful things on Earth. And he's supposed to be, a man that some people to admire. And then he gets caught up in this.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. So let me go through this article from the Futurism, and it goes, Virgin Galactic dumps 500 million in stocks before the bad news drop.
Yes.
Hell no, to the no, hell to the no, hell to the no.
So the investigation, the FAA begins its investigation on July the 23rd. The mishap only became known on September the 1st. So let me tell you what happened here. I'm gonna go in this article a little bit. Pallets.
Yeah, I'm on this.
You on
Yeah,
this?
I'm reading this.
Check this out, Patrick. Pilots in control of the suborbital plane that took Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson, into the upper atmosphere early this summer had to make a split-second decision. A bleeping red light alerted them to a deviation to their planned trajectory, but they forged ahead at 3 times the speed of sound. As revealed in the New Yorker piece several weeks later, the flight did not go, obviously, entirely to plan. The plane spent a full minute and 42 seconds outside of airspace designated by the FAA, something that Virgin Galactic likely knew about at the time, but didn't immediately disclose.
Hell no, to the no, no,
They do that.
Hell to the no.
No.
Ah, good. The
Not
FAA
good at all.
began its investigation on July the 23rd, as we mentioned earlier. The mishap only became known on September the 1st. The regulators, the FAA, wasn't impressed. They announced afterwards that all of their space planes were grounded indefinitely while it investigated. Virgin Galactic, may not return any of its spaceships into flight until the FAA approves the final mishap investigation report or determine the issue did not have a related safety issue to public health. Now listen to this. Virgin Galactic announced on July the 12th, the day after Branson flew the flight, that it was selling $500 million worth of common stock.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no.
Listen, Patrick, then Branson sold 300 shares, $300 million worth of shares in addition in mid-August, a couple of weeks before the flight mishap came to light.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no.
So that's not good, man. So Richard Branson was dumping that stock, and he was like, you know what? We flew out of airspace. FAA is going to investigate. This is going to make the stock price go down. Let me take my money. Forget the shareholders. What are your thoughts on that, Patrick?
Yeah, that's definitely destroys the reputation of Richard Branson as some kind of Tony Stark character, as a superhuman, super moralistic person who goes around and he tries to be the nice billionaire, if you will, as he takes on global warming and all these other progressively minded mandates, and tries to be the nice billionaire that everybody should look up to.
Yeah, and for that stock, I mean, if you look at Virgin Galactic, the stock on the charts, it's kind of speculative. And
It
with
is very speculative.
Those speculative stocks, you have to be careful with. So we typically shy away from speculative stocks, put no more than about 5 to 10% of your money if you want to do that. But we try to play the blue caps and the big growth companies. So that's why we have it on our Hell to the Null segment. Be careful, stay away, invest your money properly. But here's another one, Patrick. I got something else for you. Patrick.
Yes.
Say it ain't so. I said
Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so.
Well, look at this, man. So, our guy. Now, I'm a big fan of Stephen A. Smith. And, I was recently just kind of wondering what happened to Max Kellerman. He kind of disappeared off of the Stephen A. Smith show. So why do I bring this up, Patrick? The reason I bring this up is because those guys work for ESPN, their partner, they have a job, but at the end of the day, your money got to work for you. These partnerships, they come and go, but at the end of the day, what you say off camera, Patrick? I got to do me.
At the end of the day, you got to do you.
Exactly. We talk about that off camera a bit. At the end of the day, you got to do you. doing you in our terms is investing your money and ensuring your money is growing for you. And, you got to do what you're comfortable with. Stephen A. Smith definitely did what he felt like he was comfortable with here. Let me turn this up a little bit, Patrick. Let me play what Stephen A. Smith had to say about him wanting Max Kellerman off the show. And I know the graphics here is a little off. The graphics on the screen says Stephen A. Smith on Max Kellerman leaving First Take. Not a great, the grade is cut off and Kellerman is cut off. Not a great partnership anymore. But I thought this was interesting. He was on Ebro in the morning. And check out what Stephen A. had to say here, Patrick. I'm going to let you check it out.
But it didn't seem like you and Max had a bad relationship at all. So where do those rumors come from? And what's the truth with the departure of Max Kellerman from First Take?
Well, the rumor's accurate in terms of me wanting him off the show. Let's get that out the way. Yes, I did. We don't have a bad relationship. I think he's a real good guy. I appreciate what he did for the show. We were number one for 5 years. We stayed number one, and I appreciate that. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the work that goes into doing the show every single day. And the reality is that we have 15 segments a day, 75 segments a week, over 3,000 takes a year. In the 9 years that I've been on First Take, I've given over 33,000 takes. And what a lot of people don't realize is that not just the work that goes into that, but also the fact that it's a chemistry that you have, and sometimes it just stalls. And the audience lets you know that it is what it is, and you feel the need for something fresh. You feel the need to retool. And the reason why I'm unapologetic about my position is that, number one, there's no knock against him personally, his professionalism, his work ethic, and all of that other stuff, his talent. It's not like I wanted the guy to be fired or anything like that. I knew that there were landing spots for him available at this network that would generate just as much, if not more, revenue for him and all of that other stuff. And it wasn't really about asking him to be off the show. It was about the fact that I knew that we together, as far as I was concerned, was not a great partnership anymore. And that was something that needed to change. And we cover the world of sports, and this is where maybe I stand on an island all by myself in saying this. I'm absolutely
hell no, to the no, hell to the no, hell to the no.
We cover the world of sports.
Come on, Patrick. Come on, Patrick. Patrick.
Yes.
I don't get this one. So, this is an article from the USA Today. It came out on Friday, as you can see, September the 10th. The Kellerman and Great on the two lines are cut off, but I read it earlier. But Stephen A. Smith is just saying the partnership is no longer good between him and Kellerman. I saw Kellerman on this other show. I was wondering on Monday what happened to Max, and I thought that was pretty interesting. The article goes, with a salary that stretches into the 8 figures. That's a lot of money there, Patrick. Stephen A. Smith, what he wants, Stephen A. Smith gets. And then, you heard him talk about, he wanted Max Kellerman off the show. And so I thought that was very interesting. One thing in this article from USA Today that caught me specifically, that made me go hell to the gnaw, was this. Now listen to this, Patrick. This is Stephen A. Smith speaking in the article. Max is one of those guys who want to convince you to see the error of your ways. It's important to him that you side with him. So a lot of the time is spent with him trying to convince you how knowledgeable he is, as opposed to simply taking his side and saying, the rest of the world can kiss my you-know-what. So Stephen A. Smith didn't like the fact that Max Kellerman came across cerebral. In Stephen A. Smith's world, you cannot be, I don't know, cerebral. You just have to throw out facts or whatever, and to the rest of the world, you don't give a, you know what. So here's what Stephen A. Smith said about himself. I'm the kind of person who is like, this is how I feel, and unless you prove me wrong, I don't give a damn what you feel. That's the difference between Max and I, and that's what made it challenging at times to work together.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no.
I thought it was a debate show, Patrick.
That's what it is supposed to be, a debate show.
So one guy
But-
can't be cerebral, and the other guy got to just be. I don't get it. I don't completely get it. I just don't get it. But
Well-
I like to show a lot. I tape it every day. Go ahead.
I think Stephen A. Smith was threatened by Max, obviously.
Yeah, and some would say the way Stephen A. respond to certain topics and issues, like Terrell Owens was on the show a few years ago, and he was saying that Max Kellerman had more of an urban perspective than Stephen A. Smith, even though Stephen A. Smith is black. So that was very, very
Yes.
interesting. So I think there was some blood there, but invest your money. Don't count on anything but, you having financial literacy and getting things done. So Patrick, I thought that was really, really interesting. And so we're back to the Bad Out of Debt show. We're back doing what we typically do. So let's get started, and let's start talking about a few things here. I want to start off the show today when we get into our financial literacy and why you need financial literacy and why you don't need to be in the hell to the no segment and you need to be over here investing for yourself. I want to go into a stock that I've been tracking for a little while now. I've been talking consistently behind the scenes for a few weeks. I'm actually invested in this stock. I have a long call option that expires in March monthly. I have a spread. And that stock is called Ford, the Ford Motor Company. So I want to go into a bullish case, Patrick, of why our audience should consider the Ford Motor Company. And I want you to bring the heat of why they should not. Okay?
Okay.
So that we
And
can
I have some heated questions.
I know you do. We were just in pre-production, and yeah, I know you do. So let me get started with some of this stuff, if you don't mind. Okay.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
let me start here. Let me share my screen here. I'm gonna start here why I like the Ford Motor Company, right? So let's start out with what is the first criteria when we're looking at a stock to make sure it's investable? Well, Patrick, we look at the exponential 200-day moving average. We look at the chart, and we ensure that it stays above the 200-day moving average, right? And we
200-day
start.
moving average is up.
Yeah, but we start at the 5-year. Guess where I'm at?
Yes.
The 1
You're
year.
the five. The
Why
1
why
year.
am I at the 1 year, Patrick? Because if I go to the 5-year, look at that. Patrick, is that a good chart? That is not such a good chart, Patrick.
No, it's not.
It's really bad. Look at that. Look at 5 years of. Let's look at 10 years. The stock was below. It's up. This is the Ford Motor Company. I want people to see that. Now, the stock is only trading at $12.68 a share. And people would say that's cheap, but that doesn't necessarily mean a stock is cheap. That that's just a reflection of the earnings per share, right? The EPS. We talked about that quite a bit. The price of a stock is directly what the company earns per share times the PE ratio, which is called a multiple. So, but it's fairly affordable to buy a share of Ford at $12.68. So, Patrick, stay with me here, please.
Okay.
So, over the last 10 years, it was below, and let's look, this goes back to like 2010 ish, 11-ish, right? It was below, and then something happened to make Ford stock go above. I think his name was Alan Mulally, who left the Ford Motor Company, left Boeing to go to the Ford Motor Company, right? And he did some amazing things for Ford, and Ford took off. And then after Mulally left, I think Mark Fields took over. And then I think it was Jim Hackett. And then Jim Farley took over. Sorry for the sound effects.
That's okay,
Patrick. So then,
that's cool.
So then you look at the 5-year, and you see the Mark Fields back in 2016. The Jim Hackett took over from Mark Fields. And then you see right around here is where Jim Farley became CEO of the Ford Motor Company. And he has shifted the company, and I have been following him for a bit. So let me see if I can get us up here. Let's see. And let's see. All right. I'm in here so that I can be in the building while I show this. So when Mark takes over, Jim Farley takes over. This is the last year. Let me move myself up a little bit so I'm not blocking that. But look at this, Patrick. So this is when, and I don't know if you can see that. It's not.
I can't see it.
Yeah, the cursor's not showing up. It's showing up on my screen over here. It's not showing up over there. I'm not sure you guys are seeing that, but October the 20th.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Yeah, October the 20th, 2020 is when Farley took over, and then the company consistently stayed above the 200-day moving average. And just get a little background on Jim Farley here. And some of the keys. This was back August 24th before he took over in October. What to know about Ford's incoming CEO? And let me kind of see what I can do about moving me out the way here a little bit. Okay. So Jim Farley will succeed Jim Hackett October the 1st of this year of 2020. Look what his key points were back then. What's his key points? This change comes at a pivotal time for the automaker as it attempts to execute an $11 billion restructuring plan and launch key new products. And those key new products were the F-110, electric, F-110, and Mark E, to name a few of the electrical vehicle focus. And then Wall Street analysts expected Farley, known as a passionate car guy, to speed up the transformation process, right? So this is the ex-CEO here, Jim Hackett. I'll show you Farley in a minute, but so Jim Farley will become the 4th CEO in the past decade. So you saw that kind of turbulent performance. He succeeded Steelcase Furniture CEO, who had became a CEO of the Ford Motor Company and wasn't working out there. And so what they say here is the change come at a pivotal time, which we talked about, the restructuring. This guy Farley is really a car nut. Right now he's about 59 years old. He's been with the Ford Motor Company for a while, and he was the global head marketing and communication for Toyota back in the day. And so they just talk about what Wall Street expects. And so this guy is a real good execution guy. And so let me show you who this Farley guy is. This is Jim Farley. So this is who I'm betting on. I'm betting on this guy right here. I'm betting on him, Patrick, to lead me to some profits. And so this guy is a get it done car guy. So let me go over some of the numbers here with Ford. Some exciting things to look at. Let's look at bar chart. Let's go back to bar chart for a minute. And let's just kind of look at, we just looked at the technical analysis. So you see that, number one, from a technical perspective, that Ford he took over October 2020. And as quick as he took over in October, boom, right above the 200-day. The market is better than Miss Cleo, the fortune teller. The market is really good. You change a CEO and you have a pivot in a stock. So that's a really good opportunity, right? Look at the other thing here from a technical perspective. Ford is getting close to the 200-day moving average, Patrick. So that makes a great buy-in opportunity right here. It's close to the 200-day moving average. And so so that's another great buying opportunity. Let's just look at some of the pricing, some of the metrics of the Ford Motor Company. It's earning about $2 a share for the trailing 12 months. And we know there's been some headwinds, which means challenges. There's been some headwinds related to semiconductors and things of that nature because, there's been a part shortage for chips that go into these smart cars and things of that nature. But they still did about $2 a share. Look at their PE ratio. So they're trading from a 12-month perspective as related to earnings, only 6 times earnings. And traditionally, Ford is traded between 9 to about 20 times the earnings. So even if you were conservative and went 9, and I'll show you a video in a moment, Ford is trading at 12 right now, but should be trading if the market starts to price Ford the way I believe Jim Farley is going to lead this company and just be conservative, 9 times earnings. That makes this an $18 stock. A 9 PE times this earnings per share, as it is today, would make it an $18 stock. That's a 50% increase from now, from where the stock is today. And that's easy money, in my opinion. So that's why I have a trade on. That's why I'm somewhat big on the Ford Motor Company. Let me show you something else too, Patrick. Let me go to, that was just bar chart. Let me go to Yahoo. And let me go to Yahoo. And on Yahoo, let me go to the statistics here. Let's see. I think I'm going to go to analysis, actually. Let me go to the bottom here. Let me look at the growth rate. This is, again, Ford Motor Company. Let's look at the projected growth rate of this company. So, current year, Ford is looking to do about 290% growth. Next year, 19%, but a 5-year per annual of 72%. So once this chip shortage thing, we get over that, and the company is below the price of the shares are trading below and near the 200-day moving average, I think there's a good growth thesis here for the company. But Patrick, I'm not finished yet. Let me show one addition. As a matter of fact, I think I'll save that because I know one of your retorts. I think I'll say one thing here. Let's look at the Bollinger Band. I'll just do this last thing. Let's do the Bollinger Band. And let's look at the 6 month. Let me pull up the Bollinger Band. Look where Ford is right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is near the second deviation low, or the low line on the Bollinger Band, which makes it a really good opportunity to buy. It's right near this red line, which is the 200-day moving average. So I think Ford right here is a good buy. I think it's an opportunity to buy long term. I think the company is projected to do well. And what are your thoughts on that, Patrick? I want to kind of get your thoughts here and bring you in. What are your thoughts, Patrick?
I mean, it's got some good positives to it. I mean, you got a CEO who's definitely turned the company around. It's getting into the EV space. The company is certainly cheap, and it looks like looking at the Bollinger Band too, and it looks like it could be a good pickup at around maybe $12, $11 a share, and it wouldn't take a great effort for it to go to about $19, $20, $22 a share. However, there are some concerns that I may want to address and that investors should take a look at.
Yeah, Patrick, let's talk about those.
Okay. So this is part of the SWOT analysis of the Ford Motor Company that I've looked up. Now, a SWOT analysis basically looks at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So the weaknesses are internal misgivings about the company one may have. So let's take a look at the weaknesses that it has, and that might be product recalls. So here, Ford faced a huge loss, and their brand suffered due to the product recalls back in May 2016. They recalled approximately 830,000 Ford and Lincoln vehicles to replace faulty side door latches. And then in 2015, they also recalled some vehicles because of the Takata airbags.
Patrick, tell me some latest news. That was a long, long time ago. In 2015, I had hair.
Okay, the company also recalled more than 558 mid-sized SUVs. It just goes to say that this company does have product recalls from time to time.
Yep.
Weak foothold in emerging markets. As Ford operations are diversified in many geographical areas, they lack focus in performance and productivity. They do not have a stronghold in emerging markets like India. Poor reputation. Ford has a poor reputation compared to its European and Japanese rivals. The Lincoln, in particular, is considered an inferior brand as compared to English and German luxury cars. Over dependence on U.S. markets. So Ford is highly dependent upon the U.S. and European market. It limits its profits and revenues. Experts predict that the majority of the future car sales will come from emerging markets such as China and India.
What year
Ford
is that? What year is that?
Um,
To me, that sounds like old news. That sounds like pre-Jim Farley news to me, Patrick. So you got to give me some latest news. Don't give me any news. What has these guys that you're talking about done for me lately? Let's talk about the latest news, and I'll get into India in a minute. I'm just trying to be polite.
Okay. All right. We'll say in 2020, it sold just over 2.04 billion vehicles in the U.S., representing a decline of 15% as compared to 2.4 million vehicles in 2019.
Yeah, but Patrick, we
The,
know why. It's the pandemic, I should say, and the chip shortage. Come on, Patrick, and no one sold as much as two. You can't compare 2020 numbers to 2019 numbers. Patrick, let's play fairly here.
okay. All right. I'm just saying that, it may be improving right now, but these are some of the issues that have plagued
Yeah,
the market as
yeah,
for Ford, has played the Ford specifically, and
yeah,
it's
and
over dependence on trucks and SUVs.
absolutely. And all companies are going there, Patrick. The SUV market in the U.S., we know, in the automotive space, is the most profitable and the hottest.
So, I think here in 2020, its car segment declined by 45% vehicles sold. Depending on too much on trucks and SUVs is risky since most customers are aware of climate change and are moving away from big gas guzzlers.
So, Patrick, you know my retort to that? Guess what Jim Farley is taking the company now? EV, electronic vehicles. So again, that stuff that you're saying, and it's rightfully so. I don't want the audience to get the wrong opinion, like we're actually arguing. We, in pre-production, that's his job, is to give the other side for the audience to consider. My job is to be, in this case, somewhat bullish. That's what Jim Farley is doing. He's taking his company more EV based. He's taking this company into profitability. Let me talk India for a second. So he just recently announced that they're shutting down the Indian operations in a couple of cities. And they lost like over $2 billion over the last 25 years in India. They only have a 2% market share over there. And they've been over there for 25 years. All of the other past CEOs of the Ford Motor Company allow that to continue. Jim Farley comes in, wherever the company is not profitable, he is shutting that stuff down, and he's bringing the company into profitability and competing in the markets where he can compete. And so to shut down India, it's going to cost $2 billion. It's like a $1.7 billion hit on some non-cash basis, or I may have it reversed, and then cash basis another 0.3. But so altogether, it's another $2 billion just to shut it down. But to shut down that operation and make them more streamlined and focus, that's going to overall improve the future profitability and execution of the company. And so only this guy Jim Farley is doing that type of stuff and leading them that way. So that's why me and some others that I'm going to show in a moment, we're really big on the Ford Motor Company for a long-term investment. We're expecting the Ford stock that you saw on the charts to stay above the 200-day moving average as long as this guy is CEO. Now, when this guy leaves the company, then I'll have a different opinion. But under his leadership, He's making a difference. And we know CEOs make a big difference. We'll talk Salesforce in a little bit. Mark Benioff. So what do you have to say about that, Patrick?
Yeah, I know that Ford is going through a restructuring program to raise its profitability, and the global pandemic has accelerated this decision. So I know he's closed some plants in Brazil as well.
Yep. Wherever they're not profitable, he's shutting it down. That's good for shareholders.
Yes, it is, too.
That's good for the EPS. And the way of the
Right.
EPS is the way of the price of the stock. So, guys, if you want a cheap stock, like a $12 stock, and let me show you something else, Patrick, that will that you may be interested in. Now check this out, Patrick. I'm going to move us here on the screen a bit because we're blocking it. Let me move us here. So, Patrick, look at this right here. It is the PEG ratio for the expected 5-year growth of Ford. Is a 1 PEG ratio good, Patrick?
Yeah, it's very cheap.
That's good. That's cheap. Guess what the PEG ratio for Ford is? 0.12. Point. Not 1. Not even a half. 0.12. It is that cheap. And for those, just a refresher for the PEG ratio, the PE ratio here reflects the growth rate. So typically, if a company is going to grow 6%, then you want a PE ratio of 6. You're willing to pay the expected growth times the EPS. So EPS of 6 would be good if Ford had a growth rate of 6. But Ford has such a big growth rate that this PE is of 6. This multiple is cheap. It's so cheap the PEG ratio is only 0.12 versus it should be on par 1. So I just want to point out those type of factors, Patrick. Is reason why I put a smaller position into Ford just to get started. But I think as the market correct, and I'm expecting the market to correct a bit in September. September is traditionally a bad month for the stock market. Just consider Ford, okay?
Yeah, the market has been correcting the last week or two.
Yeah, it's been going down a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Patrick, just to beat the last drum on the Ford tape, check this out, okay? I'm going to play something here for you. I tape CNBC, the different shows every week, daily, and I look at them daily after work. So check this out. This is what I saw on CNBC.
Doug Field has left Apple and has joined Ford. At Ford, he will essentially be in charge of electric, autonomous, connected vehicles. It's a title that basically falls under Chief Advanced Technology and Embedded Systems Officer. He will report directly to Jim Farley, the CEO. He's not being brought in just to tinker with things. He's being brought in to put a foot on a.
So, Patrick, what do you see here? Right here on the Ford Motor Company, under the leadership of Jim Farley, he brought in Doug Field. Do you know who Doug Field is?
Doug Field.
Doug Field. Do you know who Doug Field is?
Yeah, can you let the audience know who Doug Field is?
Doug Field is a guy who began at Ford, but then an executive that transferred to Apple,
Yes.
and then later got poached by Tesla to be the senior vice president to develop the Model 3, the wildly successful Model 3 for Tesla. Then Apple came back recruited Doug Field away from Tesla to develop the Apple car that's supposed to come out 2024-ish, called the Project Titan. Apple stole him back. He's developing the smart car for Apple. Guess what Jim Farley just recently did this week? They announced Ford just lured Doug Field away from Apple. So he's coming to Ford with all of that inside technology, all that inside decision making and everything. He has the pedigree from Tesla Model 3. He has all of that experience. So that he has all of that experience. So that is just a great pickup.
Yes, it is.
So, Patrick, let this continue.
On what Ford is doing when it comes to electric, autonomous, and connected vehicles. Here's his resume. Look at this. Now, he was in charge of the Apple car program, the Apple Project Titan. They've never fully divulged exactly what the end game is going to be at Apple, but over the last 3 years, he's been there working on that. Prior to that, he was at Tesla, Senior VP of Engineering. He helped develop the Model 3. Before that, he was at Apple for 5 years. He began his career back at Ford. Here he is during a conference call just a few minutes ago talking about how Jim Farley convinced him Ford is the place to make his mark.
Who convinced them?
Jim Farley, the current CEO.
Meeting and talking to Jim and other leadership at Ford, I became convinced that not only was the history here, but that there was a deep desire to really change and embrace these technologies and sort of build the best of both worlds, where the scale and history of Ford can be combined with a completely new set of approaches.
Take a look at shares of Ford, and we're showing you a one-year chart here. Remember, it was October 1st of last year when Jim Farley took over as CEO. Boy, has he made his mark in the last year, and this is a big move with...
All right, Patrick. Look at Ford performance over the last year. It was
I've
trading
seen it.
last September. It was trading around $7 a share when Farley took over. We know, we've been in the game long enough to know those type of numbers are not an accident. That's execution from the top down and everyone following direction. Look at that. 87% performance year over year for the last year on a $12.95 stock. You see that, Patrick?
Yes, I do see that.
I want you to see what these guys say about it.
Doug Field reporting directly to Jim Farley. Also take a look at shares of Apple. As we've mentioned many times, Melissa, we don't know exactly what the end game is going to be when it comes to developing what the future is in that regard at Ford.
I'm going to let you hear what these guys say.
Thank you, Philip Bowe, with all the details there. And I don't know if investors care about what happens with Project Titan, at least in the immediate term, but they do care about what happens at Ford, Michael, given the stock's run and re-rating, some would argue.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the stock was higher than it is right now earlier this year, and I think it deserves to get back to those levels. I mean, this is a company that's demonstrated their dedication to adopting these new technologies, and the Ford F-150 Lightning, among them the best-selling car in America, obviously is an example of that. You know, in terms of how well they're executing, I believe Dan actually has one of their electric vehicles already, so he's probably a better one. Our electric cars are from other makers, but I mean, obviously, if they can make that transition, this is a company that's probably, you know, it's obviously way cheap to the market right here. And if they're obviously progressing along this course, I'd much rather own Ford than, say, Tesla, despite the big lead that Tesla already has.
Dan, is it a Bronco?
That they really want to...
Did you hear that, Patrick?
Mm-hmm.
I much prefer to own Ford
Over Tesla.
Have you seen Tesla's PE? It's multiple. It's definitely not 6 times its earnings.
No, it's not. It's way up there.
It's way up there. All right, but look at this, Patrick.
Make a difference when it comes to electric.
I think it deserves to
So
get
let
back
me go
to the
here.
market right here. And if they're obviously progressing
The fact that stock being up about 50%, like Mike said, is down a lot. From a chart perspective, you look at that 200-day moving average down there near 12 bucks. If you were to get a broad market sell-off and you pick that stock up near there, I think you're going to be pretty happy with it. You know, that $750 billion enterprise value for Tesla and the $53 billion enterprise value for a company like Ford, and you think about the opportunity that they have with these new cars coming out and the reformation of this model, I just think it seems like a great do here, even at 13 bucks.
So Patrick, that's all I'm saying, Patrick. That's all I'm saying. I mean, really, that's all I'm saying. So, thought I'll share that. So that's my case for Ford. I thought I'll, bring some evidence, some, a really deep analysis of the Ford Motor Company. The charts in the past were not the best, but I think it's an opportunity with new leadership, technology that it's adopting, as well as bringing on Doug Field, who has that history for electronic vehicle development, coming over to Ford to provide that leadership as well. It just looks like a great opportunity for a company that's going to have a lot of upside in the future. So
I would agree.
yeah. So I appreciate you bringing the heat, Patrick. You brought some good heat. I think it was old Bengay heat and not.
Yeah, some of it was probably old and before the Jim Farley came
Jim
in
Farley.
and turned things around.
Yeah, and so that's what I want the audience to pay attention to. You look at the technical analysis, and then you look and you say, well, wait a minute. The stock is trading above the 200-day moving average now. Why? And the reason why is new leadership. And that new leadership, management, execution is everything. All right, Patrick. That was a lot of information. I took up a lot of time going through that stuff. What do you have for us, Mr. Doherty? I know you want to talk about another CEO that we're very, very fond of.
Yeah, and I'm talking about Mark Benioff.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm talking about Salesforce.
So let's get into it, Patrick. Salesforce is that stock that, I've been on Salesforce for many years. I'm new to Ford. I had Ford a long time ago and I dumped it, and now I'm back getting into it. But man, this is a perennial performer here. Let's start off with the charts, Mr. Doherty. Will you share your screen and let's get into that? Maybe.
Okay, well, I can show you the chart here.
Yeah.
The chart. Okay, give me 1 second here.
And Mark Benioff. And I think Jim Farley may be a sleeper. I'm hoping that he is a sleeper, Mark Benioff. I'm hoping that, Patrick, because if this guy can execute like Mark, oh my goodness.
Oh, yes.
It's going to be off the chain, right?
Yes. So anyways, I have pulled up, can you all see this?
Yeah, we can see it, Patrick.
Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm comparing the performance of the Salesforce stock as compared to the S&P and 500 and the NASDAQ 100, which is represented by the QQQ. Okay, so CRM is the black line, S&P is the blue line, and the orange line is the QQQ. Right now, Salesforce, under the leadership of Mark Benioff, has provided a 260.58%, so it's 261% return on shareholders' investments since October October 2016 all the way to right now, September 2021.
Patrick, you got a lot
So-
going on the screen. Got a whole lot
Okay.
going on there. I may have had similar, so apologies. Can you simplify this and just show the performance of CRM first and then do a comparison? Let's just look at
Okay.
it from the basis of what we always do with a growth
Okay.
stock. We first look at that
Okay.
5-year and that exponential 200-day moving average. So let's take it there first. And after we take it there, then let's do some comparisons, please.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do is I'll add the 200-day moving average to this,
Yeah.
and so moving average. What we
Oh, I
had.
thought you had a second one open. I didn't mean to screw you up, my friend. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Forget about
Patrick is Italian now. Forget about it.
it. No, I just say that that's my background coming through.
Yeah. All right.
So anyways-
turn that to 200-day, please. Yep, you got it.
And that is the 200-day moving average.
Okay.
so-
Yeah, go ahead.
When you look at a stock, we would like to look at the upward sloping 200-day moving average. Hopefully, it is an upward sloping 200-day moving average, which it is in this case. Again, this is a 5-year chart, a 5-year chart of Salesforce.
Yeah.
And it passes the first test that it is moved and stayed above the 200-day moving average.
Right. Yeah,
The
you can
second-
see that red line there at the bottom. You got the Bollinger Band going, so it's kind of busy, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, so now we can look at the Bollinger Band, and I'll apologize for
Can you
the-
blow that
the
up, please,
busy-
Patrick? Can we go 3-month or something so we can get in a closer? We get into a 3-month
I could do a
chart,
3 months. So we look at the 3 month right here.
and then blow it up, please. It's really small on the screen.
Okay. So let me blow it up a little bit.
Yeah, there we go. And then can you bring down the month, so we can see the month a little bit, that kind of period where we are.
Right. Yeah,
There we go.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so right here, this is like from June the 14th till now.
Yeah.
And we're looking at the Bollinger Band right here. And the Bollinger Band, I mean, it popped during earnings. And I'll get to those in a minute. And then it stayed high for a while until the recent weakness in the market as a whole. And this is what happens generally in September. It's a seasonal thing. And September is generally the rockiest month for stocks. But Salesforce has held up reasonably well. I mean, you're talking from a high of about $275 a share to about maybe $256, $257. And, you know, it's going to stay above the 200-day moving average. That's tilting upwards. This overall trend in the chart, as you can see, if I may go to maybe a longer period, let's say 6 months here, you know, again, it's an upward sloping chart. So what one might want to do, because it's September, you might want to see the chart, the stock maybe pull back to about 250. I think would be good support right here. And that's where I think the lower Bollinger Band will meet the stock price, around 250, 245, 250-ish. And you could probably pick up a few more shares
All right.
based on
Patrick.
that chart. I'll go back to the comparison that I was looking at here. So let me delete some of these studies here so I can neaten up the comparison here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the Salesforce to the QQQ
Yeah.
and the SPY,
All right, Patrick. So
and to see its relative performance.
you're trying to do
I think I put it
relative
up.
performance of CRM. Okay. This sounds like a winner before we wrap her up. I spent so much time on the Ford Motor Company. you could tell, man, when the market corrects, man, oh man, am I going to buy? I'm going to load the boat on some Ford. But go ahead, Patrick.
So anyways, again, this is a 5-year comparison performance.
Okay.
So I started off with this. So it's essentially started around September or October 2016. And this chart extends all the way to today, September.
What
10th,
colors am I looking at? I'm confused with the colors. So what
okay,
colors?
so the black is the Salesforce.
Yep.
The orange is the QQQ.
Yep.
The blue is the S&P 500.
And this is a 5-year period.
This is a 5-year period.
Gotcha. Okay. So the relative performance. CRM has done really well.
Let me reiterate that most, if not all, fund managers do not beat the S&P. And the S&P has returned a respectful 105% or so over a 5-year period.
Can you put that down some, Patrick, please, so we can see the top C Salesforce?
Yeah. Let me zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. And then we can probably see the chart a little bit better.
Yeah, pull it down a little bit, please.
Okay. Darn it. Give me 1 second. I think, yeah, this is a little bit better.
So this stock is performing so well, it's hard for you to get it to fit on the screen. But you could probably zero in on the profitability. I think we already know the timeline is 5 years, so but that's fine.
But anyway,
you could see that.
So the QQQ has outperformed the S&P by 217. Well, 105 for the S&P, 217% for the QQQ. And then you look at Salesforce, which is 260%
return in 5 years. That's pretty good. I see there's a lot of volatility if you look at that chart and look at the violent swings up and down. You have to have a good stomach to go through some of those price ups and downs. But overall, it's staying above the 200-day moving average and progressing. So,
yes. Okay, and then what I want to do is talk about Salesforce as the company itself.
Well, Patrick, I'm supposed to retort CRM, but I spent so much time on my segment that I do not really have a retort. And just to be honest, I didn't have anything anyway. You know, I couldn't come up with anything overly negative. All of the headlines that had CRM trading sideways for a whole year, those headlines have proven to be kind of not true. You know, the acquisition of, what's the name of that company? Starts with an S.
Slack.
What?
Slack,
yeah. That turned out, analysts thought that was going to be a bad deal, thought it was going to hurt Salesforce. It did not. It made Salesforce even more profitable. Slack has been killing it with earnings. They thought the Slack deal would not go through potentially. The deal went through. They thought Tableau was going to be a bad acquisition. Tableau turned out to be great years back. And Mark Benioff said this is going to be the same as Tableau. Slack is going to be great for us. They didn't believe him. You got to bet with Mark Benioff. You got to bet with Jim Farley, Patrick. Keep that name. Keep that name
Jim
close.
Farley and
Keep that
Mark
name close.
Benioff.
Bet with those guys like you bet with Steve Jobs. Bet with those guys like you bet with, what is that guy, Nadella, with Microsoft?
Yes.
I think it's Sanji or something, Nadella. You bet with that Microsoft CEO. Those guys
and you also bet with Jensen Huang.
Ooh, NVIDIA. Those are the kind of guys you bet with. And I'm going to tell you another person you bet with. Lisa Su. AMD.
AMD. Yes.
Lisa Su turned that, and that's exactly what I believe is happening here. The way Lisa Su turned AMD around, you could just look at how that stock performed under the exponential 200-day moving average before Lisa Su. And then once she took over around 14, 15-ish, I have to go and search it on the internet. And then boom, AMD just been above the exponential 200-day ever since. So yeah, so hopefully we'll have that kind of tenure. These CEOs tend to turn over quite a bit. And as you can see in the Ford Motor Company, they have had 4 in the last decade. So hopefully this guy would be effective and he'll stick around for a while. But Patrick,
I know.
Go
that,
ahead.
Mark
Go ahead,
Benioff,
Patrick, please.
I know Mark Benioff and he's a young guy too. He's in his 50s.
Yeah. It's relatively young. So Patrick, can I wrap it up?
We can wrap it up.
Excellent. Let me go ahead and do that. So again, thank you for joining the Bet Out of Debt show. On behalf of Patrick Doherty, we affectionately call Super P, and myself, Troy Johnson, we call this show the Bet Out of Debt show because when you place a trade, it's called placing a bet. And hopefully it's a winner one that would keep you out of debt. And as always, keep investing, and we'll see you next week, next Sunday. Take care.